Hi, I'm Atlas, your history explorer here at ThinkSketch. I love uncovering the stories hidden behind ancient ruins, powerful empires, legendary warriors, and the people who changed the world. History isn't just about dates in a book. It's filled with incredible adventures, brilliant minds, and lessons that still shape our lives today. So if you're curious about the past and ready to discover how history shaped the world we live in, you're in the right place. Come on, let's travel through time, one sketch at a time. Imagine discovering the greatest city ever built, a civilization so wealthy, so advanced, and so powerful that people believed it could never fall. Its harbors were filled with ships from distant lands. Its temples glittered with gold. Its kings ruled an empire that stretched across the sea. To those who lived there, the future seemed limitless. Then, something happened. The ground began to shake. The sea roared. The sky turned black. Within a single day, the greatest civilization on Earth vanished without a trace. No survivors, no ruins, no empire, only a story. For more than 2,300 years, people have searched for this lost city. Some believe it's buried beneath the Atlantic Ocean. Others claim it lies beneath the Mediterranean. Some have searched in Spain, others in Antarctica, and even beneath the sands of the Sahara Desert. Yet despite centuries of searching, no one has ever found Atlantis. So why does the legend refuse to die? Was Atlantis really a forgotten civilization, or the greatest myth ever created? Tonight, we're uncovering one of history's greatest mysteries. Every civilization leaves something behind. The Egyptians left pyramids, the Romans left roads. The Maya left magnificent temples hidden beneath the jungle. Even civilizations that disappeared thousands of years ago left clues that tell us they once existed. Atlantis is different. It supposedly ruled an empire, possessed unimaginable wealth, built magnificent cities, and then vanished. No ruins, no monuments, no artifacts that can unquestionably be linked to it. It's almost as if Atlantis was erased from history itself. Yet, its story has survived for more than 2 millennia. How? Because unlike many ancient legends, Atlantis has an author, one of history's greatest philosophers, a man whose words changed Western civilization forever. His name was Plato. The year was around 360 BC. Ancient Greece was experiencing one of its greatest periods of philosophy. Among its greatest thinkers stood Plato. Most people know him as the student of Socrates and the teacher of Aristotle. But few realize that Plato is also the reason the world knows the name Atlantis. The story appears in 2 of his works, Timaeus and Critias, according to Plato. The story wasn't his own. He claimed it had been passed down through generations. It supposedly began with Solon, one of Athens' greatest lawmakers, while visiting Egypt. Solon met elderly priests inside an ancient temple. These priests claimed their civilization possessed records reaching back thousands of years, far older than anything known in Greece. Among those records was the story of Atlantis. According to the priests, Atlantis lay beyond the Pillars of Hercules, known today as the Strait of Gibraltar. It wasn't a small island. It was the center of a mighty empire. Its people possessed enormous wealth. Its land was fertile. Its cities were magnificent. Its navy ruled the seas. To Plato's audience, Atlantis represented the greatest civilization anyone could imagine. Plato didn't simply say Atlantis was wealthy. He described it in extraordinary detail. At the center of the island stood an enormous capital city. Unlike any city ever built, it was designed in giant concentric circles, rings of land, surrounded by rings of water. Bridges connected each section. Ships sailed through carefully engineered canals. Every part of the city reflected remarkable planning. At its center stood a magnificent temple dedicated to Poseidon, the Greek god of the sea. Inside, towering statues covered in gold overlooked the city. Nearby stood enormous palaces where the kings of Atlantis governed their empire. The surrounding plains stretched for miles. Perfectly irrigated farmland produced abundant harvests. The mountains supplied timber. The rivers carried fresh water. Trade flourished. Merchants arrived from distant lands carrying precious metals, rare animals, fine textiles, and exotic goods. According to Plato, Atlantis possessed every resource a civilization could desire. Its people lacked nothing. Prosperity surrounded them, generation after generation. Their empire continued to grow. Soon, their influence spread across neighboring islands, then across the sea. Eventually, Atlantis became the dominant naval power of its age. Its fleets controlled trade routes. Its armies conquered distant territories. Kingdom after kingdom fell beneath Atlantean rule. To the people living there, their empire seemed unstoppable. History has seen civilizations like this before. Rome, the Mongols, the British Empire. Every one of them believed their power would last forever. Atlantis believed the same thing, and just like those empires, its greatest threat wasn't outside its borders. It was already growing from within. According to Plato, the people of Atlantis were not always arrogant. In the beginning, they were wise, disciplined, just rulers who respected the laws established by their ancestors. But prosperity has a strange effect on civilizations. The longer success continues, the easier it becomes to believe success is permanent. Generation after generation grew up knowing only wealth, only victory, only expansion. The hardships their ancestors endured slowly faded into memory. Humility gave way to ambition. Ambition became greed. Greed became conquest. The rulers of Atlantis no longer saw themselves as protectors. They saw themselves as masters of the world. One by one, they brought neighboring kingdoms under their control. Those who resisted were defeated. Those who surrendered became subjects of the Atlantean Empire. According to Plato, there was only one civilization willing to stand against them: ancient Athens. Unlike Atlantis, Athens wasn't described as the richest city, nor the largest, nor the most powerful. Instead, Plato portrays Athens as disciplined, courageous, and unwilling to surrender its freedom. Eventually, war became inevitable. The mighty empire of Atlantis launched its campaign against Greece. On paper, the outcome seemed obvious. Atlantis possessed greater wealth, more soldiers, a larger navy. Every advantage favored the Atlanteans. But history has often shown that numbers alone don't decide wars. Sometimes, discipline defeats power. Sometimes, determination overcomes size. And according to Plato, that's exactly what happened. Against overwhelming odds, Athens resisted. The Atlantean advance came to a halt. Their dream of total domination had failed. It should have been a warning, a reminder that even the greatest empires have limits. Instead, their story was about to take an even darker turn. Because while Atlantis struggled with war, nature itself was preparing something far more devastating. No army destroyed Atlantis. No rival empire conquered its cities. According to Plato, its end came from something no civilization could control: the earth itself. He writes that violent earthquakes suddenly struck the island. The ground split apart. Buildings collapsed. Temples that had stood for generations began to crumble. Before the people could recover, massive floods swept across the land. The sea surged inland with unimaginable force. Harbors vanished beneath towering waves. Ships were thrown onto the streets. Entire districts disappeared beneath the water. Then, just as suddenly as it began, it was over. Plato describes the destruction with chilling simplicity. In a single day and night, Atlantis sank beneath the sea. The greatest civilization of its age was gone. No final battle, no heroic last stand, only silence. For those who heard the story in ancient Greece, it was more than entertainment. It was a warning. No matter how rich, how powerful, or how advanced a civilization becomes, nothing lasts forever. If Atlantis truly existed, then somewhere there should be evidence. A ruined city, ancient inscriptions, artifacts buried beneath the sea, something, anything. But after more than 2,000 years, no discovery has ever proven Atlantis was a real place. And that's one of the greatest frustrations surrounding the legend. Because almost everything we know about Atlantis comes from a single source: Plato. No Greek historian before him mentions Atlantis. No surviving Egyptian document clearly describes it. No neighboring civilization recorded a war against a mighty island empire. It's almost as if Atlantis appeared out of nowhere, inside Plato's writings, and nowhere else. For many historians, that's enough to conclude the case. They believe Plato never intended Atlantis to be taken literally. After all, he wasn't writing a history book, he was writing philosophy. Throughout his life, Plato explored questions about justice, power, and the rise and fall of civilizations. Many scholars believe Atlantis was simply another one of his philosophical stories, a warning about what happens when a civilization becomes consumed by greed, arrogance, and the pursuit of power. If that's true, Atlantis wasn't meant to be found because it never existed. At least, not exactly as Plato described it, but history has a habit of surprising us. And sometimes, legends contain more truth than anyone expects. In the late 19th century, archaeologists began excavating the Greek island of Santorini. At first, they expected to find the remains of an ordinary ancient settlement. Instead, they uncovered an entire city buried beneath volcanic ash. The streets were remarkably well preserved. Homes still stood, beautiful wall paintings covered the walls, pottery, furniture, and everyday objects remained exactly where they had been left thousands of years earlier. The city was called Akrotiri, and it belonged to one of the most advanced civilizations of the Bronze Age, the Minoans. Long before classical Greece, the Minoans had mastered architecture, trade, engineering, and navigation. Their ships crossed the Mediterranean. Their influence stretched across the region. They were prosperous, powerful, and highly sophisticated. Then, around 1600 BC, disaster struck. The volcano beneath Santorini erupted with unimaginable force. It was one of the largest volcanic eruptions in human history. Ash darkened the sky. Entire sections of the island collapsed into the sea. Massive tsunamis raced across the Mediterranean, destroying coastal settlements and fleets. The eruption devastated the Minoan civilization. While it didn't wipe them out overnight, it weakened them so severely that they never fully recovered. For the first time, historians had discovered something remarkable: a wealthy island civilization, destroyed by one of history's greatest natural disasters. Suddenly, Plato's story didn't seem completely impossible anymore. Could memories of this catastrophe have survived for centuries, before eventually becoming the legend of Atlantis? It was an intriguing possibility, but it wasn't the whole answer, because the details didn't quite match. Santorini certainly resembles parts of Plato's story, but there are important differences. Plato places Atlantis beyond the Pillars of Hercules, which most historians identify as the Strait of Gibraltar. Santorini lies deep inside the Mediterranean Sea, hundreds of miles away. Then there's the timeline. According to Plato, Atlantis disappeared around 9,000 years before his own lifetime. That would place the event around 9,600 BC. Thousands of years before the rise of ancient Egypt, thousands of years before the first great cities. The eruption of Santorini happened much later, around 1600 BC, a difference of nearly 8,000 years. Some researchers suggest Plato misunderstood Egyptian numbers. Others believe the dates were symbolic, but no one knows for certain. And then there's the size. Plato described Atlantis as a vast empire. The Minoans were influential, but nowhere near the scale Plato imagined. It's enough to make historians hesitate. Santorini may explain part of the legend, but it doesn't explain all of it, which is why the search continued. Over the centuries, people have searched for Atlantis almost everywhere imaginable. Some believe it lies beneath the Atlantic Ocean. Others searched the coast of southern Spain. Some looked toward the Azores. Others claimed it was hidden beneath Antarctica. Each new theory captured headlines. Each promised to solve history's greatest mystery, and each eventually ran into the same problem: evidence. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary proof. Ancient walls beneath the sea often turned out to be natural rock formations. Strange circular patterns seen from satellites proved to be geological features. Underwater cities became nothing more than unusual landscapes shaped by nature over thousands of years. Time and time again, hope faded, yet the search never stopped. Why? Because Atlantis had become more than a lost city. It had become a symbol of humanity's belief that history still holds secrets waiting to be uncovered. And history has rewarded that belief before. For centuries, the ancient city of Troy was dismissed as nothing more than a legend from Homer's poems. Then archaeologists found it. Entire civilizations have emerged from beneath deserts, jungles, and volcanic ash. So perhaps it's understandable that people continue searching. After all, history still has many unanswered questions, but curiosity alone isn't enough. Real discoveries require evidence, and despite centuries of searching, no evidence has ever confirmed Plato's Atlantis. So, did Atlantis exist? The honest answer is that we still don't know. There is no convincing evidence that a vast island empire exactly like Plato described ever ruled the seas. But that doesn't mean the story is meaningless. In fact, its true value may have nothing to do with finding a lost city. Perhaps Atlantis endures because it reflects something timeless about human civilization. Every great empire believes it will last forever. Every generation thinks its achievements are permanent. History tells a different story. The Egyptians, the Romans, the Maya, the Mongols, each rose to incredible heights. Each seemed unstoppable, and each eventually declined. Whether Atlantis was real, inspired by a forgotten disaster, or simply created by Plato as a warning, its message has survived for more than 2,000 years. Power without wisdom, wealth without humility, and ambition without restraint can destroy even the greatest civilizations. Maybe that's why the legend refuses to disappear. Because Atlantis isn't just a story about a lost city, it's a story about us, about our ambition, our pride, our curiosity, and our endless desire to uncover the mysteries of the past. Perhaps one day, a discovery beneath the ocean, or buried beneath ancient soil, will finally answer the question that has fascinated humanity for centuries. Until then, Atlantis remains exactly what it has always been, history's greatest mystery, because sometimes the greatest mysteries aren't the ones we've solved, they're the ones we're still searching for. Subscribe to Think Sketch for more psychology, history, and science explained through simple stick figure animations. Thanks for watching.